Hello and welcome back to part 4 of my backend development journey. And in this part, this is going to be a quick one. We are just going to implement validation like we said in the previous video. So in the previous video, we saw how to implement middlewares and what exactly middlewares are. So if you are new here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button to turn on the notification so you get notified whenever I upload a video, and also like the video to help us reach out to more people. So in the past videos we've built out this entire application from scratch using Express, and we are just building a demo or kind of like a CRUD application. So in today's video, we are going to be implementing a validation, because currently our user can just send anything to our API, and our API will just receive that input. But we don't want that. We want to tell the user if some of the inputs sent are not valid. So let's go on ahead and do that. So the first thing we are going to do is install this library called Express validator. So let's just add it in here. Express validator. Now we have Express validator installed into our project. So let's go on ahead and see which of our routes needs validation. For example, this one, we are just passing our user ID. Yeah, we could use some validation here, since our ID is a number and the user might pass in a string or something. Well, I don't feel that is something we should do. Let's just do it on this. So here we are trying to create a new user, and we are expecting name and age fields, and our user might pass in something different, right? So let's just add in validation in here. So to do that, like I said in the past video, we say that the way we do validation with Express validator is we pass in something we call validation chains. Those validation chains are also middlewares, so they can go in between our request handlers here. As you can see, our request handlers have been spread, so no matter how many middlewares we pass in here, they are just going to be spread and called in sequence. So once we hit this route, we want to run some validation first before doing anything with our request. That is the point of our middlewares. So to do that, we do have to import something from our library. So let's do import from Express validator. So what we want to validate right here is the body of our request. So let's import a function called body from in here. So what this body functions does, or what this body middleware, it runs some set of checks on the body object we are receiving from our user. So in here, let's just come right before our request handler and then call that body function. So in the body, we are going to pass in the name of the field we want to check. So for example, we want to check if our name is valid or the age is valid, right? So let's pick name, and then this is just reselecting the field we want to run some checks on. To run the actual checks, we have to chain the checks onto this call. So we have to say dot. This is what we call chaining, and then we want to check some stuff. So first of all, we want to make sure that our name is a string, right? So we just have to say dot is string. So we just have to make sure that our name is a string, right? And also our name should not be empty. So let's do that at the beginning. Let's say not empty. We call it, and then a dot to change to the next one, right? So that is 2, right? Also, after our name being not empty and also being a string, maybe we want our name to have a minimum length, right? So let's do that. We are going to call it isLength function. Is not, yeah, isLength. But in this one we have to pass some options, like you see here, our min max options. So let's do that. The minimum length should be, let's say, 3, right? So what we are doing here is we are running a check on our body, right? We want to check inside of our body. We want to take the field of our name and check if our name is not empty, and also it should be a string and it should have a minimum length of 3. So now let's start our server. Yeah, so let's try sending a request to create a new user. Let's open up our Thunder client in our collections, backend journey, and create user /users or /new, and then let's just use a single character. Okay, we haven't implemented anything here. So when we run it, oh, this is a get request. We need to do a push request. You can see that the user is created even though we implemented some validation. That is because we are not doing anything with the result of our validation, right? So let's just go on ahead and print it right now. So let's do console.log, and to do that we have to import another function. It's called validation result. So this validation result will take in our request and then give us all the results of all the validations we ran on that request. So let's create a new variable here. I'll call it validation result is equals to validation to this validation request, and then you can see that we pass in our request. So let's do it. We pass in our request object. So let's just console.log our variable here. And also for now I don't want to do anything, so I'll just return. I'm just going to send a valid request status for now. Yeah, so in here, let's come back here and send a request. Okay, we got our bad request status, and now when we check in our console or in our terminal, you can see that we have this result object printed out here. So inside of this request, inside of the result object, we have this errors array. So inside of this array, we are going to have an object that is matched to a specific check we ran. So in here, in this validation, you can see that the type is a field and the value we passed in is C, which is what we passed in up here, right? And the message is saying invalid value name. The path is the name and the location is the body, meaning inside the body our name field is having the value of C, which is an invalid value. So let's just try to change the message, right? So right here, dot isLength minimum 3, we can also check, we can also chain in another function here. It's called with message. So with message, so here we can pass in a custom message. We can say that user name must be at our list 3 characters. So now let's try sending another request. Now you see the new message here. It says username must be at least 3 characters, and you see this is really helpful. So now we need to do something with this error, right? We have to send back the error to the user, meaning if we have any errors, we shouldn't call anything else, and we should just send a bad request error status to the client. So let's just come over here. I'm going to stop returning that, and in here we can see that here we are manually checking that if we don't have a name or if we don't have an age. So this is let's just remove it. I'm just going to take this return, I'll cut that and delete this line. So this validation result, it has other properties. So we are going to run a check. You see that if our validation result dot, you can see that we have 4 methods in here. We have dot array, it gets the validation errors as an array, can format, or is empty. So this is what we need. So if it is not empty, right, so this one is going to return true if there are no errors, right? While if we have errors, we want to do something. So let's just put back our return statement in here. You can wrap it if you want. So here we see if our validation result is not empty, we should return this, right? And also we should customize our message. So the message should be I'll just say errors instead of message. And then in here we can call our val result dot dot error, not dot error, dot array, I mean. So it's going to return an array of our errors. Let's just quickly send another request, and you can see here that we got a bad request and an array of our errors here. So let's just quickly run validations for the other field, which is age. So we are going to do body, let's add in a comma here. We are going to capture the age field and also make sure that it's not empty. It's just not empty like this. And also it should be numeric. Or integer. Yeah, integer. Let's just do integer. And then let's write a custom message. So age must be a number. Yeah, I think that is just it for this. So we don't need our name and body here. We don't need the name and age. So instead, we are going to do something else. We are going to get the name and age from our matched value. So that is also another function from here. It's called match data. Okay, match data. So it's going to return if we don't have any errors, it's going to give us that matched data, right? So we are going to say const. It's just basically the same thing, name and age is equals to match data. We pass in our request object. That is it. So yeah, it's just going to take the name and age and also just create a user. That is if we don't have any errors. So let's try that out. Let's say ChatGPT age 22. You see our user have been created successfully, and if we try to get one of our users, you can see that we have ChatGPT with the ID 5 and the age of 22. So let's try getting some errors. Posts. No. What is going on? Body. new. So let's just introduce some errors. Let's do this, and maybe let's do 22.21, and you can see here that our age must be a number, and also our username must be at least 3 characters. And if we don't pass the username at all, and also if our age is a string, you can see that we have a lot of errors here. So the first error is saying that the name is an invalid value, because we don't have a message for when our name is empty, right? We don't have a message for that, and we don't have a message for when it is not a string, and then we only have a message for when it is less than 3 characters. Let's just create some messages, not empty dots, with message. Let's just see that our name is required. And yeah, for string, I'll just say in and that is it. Let's just try sending this particular request, and you can see that we see that name is required. Okay, yeah, invalid name. This is the other message, and then the last message is this. And also this must be a number and not a string, and the number, it must be a whole number. So let's just make sure it must be an integer. Let's just say integer. So 822. Now we don't have that error, but we have these 3 errors from the name. So let's just do that. Name. Let's do that. And now our user is created. Then we can get all of our users here. So we have our last user here. So that is how we create that is how we implement validation using Express or Validator. But using this process can make our code junky and clunky. So instead, what we can do is just move the entire validation here into a new file. This is one way to do it, but there is also another way. Let's create a utils folder. So utils validations.mjs to make sure we can use the import keyword. So let's just export new user validation. Let's do that. It should be an array, and then we pass in this. So yeah, const. So you can see that we have our body as the first item in our array, and then the body name, and then the body age. So that is our new user validation. We can just come up here and then import new user validation, and copy that name, and then we can pass it in between here. So remember, everything is being spread. Everything is spread in here. So whatever we pass here is going to be spread. We're going to be spread across, and then call one by one. So let's try creating another user. I'm just gonna call this James, age 80. We have an error. Body is not defined. Oh my goodness, my bad. We have to import body from Express Validator. And then let's create the user. And you see that user is created successfully. Let's try introducing some errors here. Let's do this. You can see that we have our errors. Here. And also just a quick just a quick I don't know. Down here you can see that our logger is working, but it's not working correctly. Even when we have a different request, a different status, it's just giving us 200. That is because we are printing this before the request is sent back. So let's just correct that. You don't have to do this if you don't want. Let's just cut everything here. We have to wait, so we have to do res.on finish. So only after the rest when the event is finished before we send, or before we print everything here. So now when we send something, you can see that we get the error 400. That's just something I forgot to update earlier. So yeah, I think that is it. That is it for validation. Also you can see that here we are just using this an array of this body. You can do it like this, or you can create a schema. What is a schema? A schema is just defining the shape for our validation, just like database schemas. They just tell the database that, oh, this is the shape of data, or this is the type of data you are expecting from the user. So to do that, let's just do that for our patch request. So you see, for our patch request, we first of all we need the ID from the parameters, and then we need the entire body. But this is where this might give us an issue if we don't have proper validation. Because for example, if we are patching, if we were to patch our user 3, and then we introduce something new here like school, I'll just call this Oxford. You can see that this is being added here, and we don't want that, right? We don't want that. We only want to update. You see, he has a school, which is not correct, as all of these other fields doesn't have that field, right? They don't have that field. So let's just come here, and let's just create a validation schema for our patch request. So I'm just going to call it let's do export const or update user schema, right? So this is going to be an object, and in this object we are going to select the fields we are going to check for. So the first things first, we want to check inside of our parameter, right? So let me just open up the documentation real quick. So here, I'll just copy the schema over here. So this is how it looks on the website. So you see, it's an object, and then we select the field and pass some rules, and then the next field, right? So first things first, let's select our name, right? So inside our name, let's set optional true. Since we are updating, all of our fields need to be optional, right? Age, okay, another object, optional true, right? So after our optional is true, so if it is actually passed, you see here, first of all we say it is optional, meaning you can pass it or you can just leave it without passing it. So if you do actually pass it, we want to run some checks on it, right? Just the same checks we did here, right? So we have to make sure it is string. We do a string, we do true, right? we can also pass in an object here, right? So it's string, we want to pass error message, so let's just do error or message. Let's just copy this, right? And also its length, so we do its length, and then we pass a new object, right? Its error message should be where is the length? Error message, I think this, right? And also we want to pass in our options, right? So we'll do options. This is just what it's everything we are passing in here, right? But in an object. You can see that our keys are matching, right? They match here. Let's just see optional. Wait. Dot optional. Now you see that we have this optional or method there, and also we have, for this message we are passing an error message. You can see it can be field message factory or an error message, so we are just creating an error message here and passing it. Don't worry, the check schema function is going to check everything for us, right? So for our options, it is this one right here. You see we pass our min max options. We just taking a minimum value and a maximum value, so that is what we are going to do. Let me just copy this and pass it here. Okay, we don't need the ma. So I think, yeah, this is it for our name field, and then for our age field is empty. Not is empty, sorry, not empty. Should be true, meaning it should not be empty if it is passed. No. Oh my goodness, another issue here. It should be optional. It should be optional, so we are going to skip here, right? I'm just going to skip on ahead to his int. So his integer is true, and then our error message should be this. So that is it. We have this schema. So what we want to do is check our name field that we are passing and make sure that name field is a string, and it also has the minimum length of 3, and for our age it must be a number. So to use this, we just have to come back to the method we are calling it for, so which is dispatch method, right? So here we are going to import another function. Let's just replace this body with check schema. See this check schema, it creates an express middleware with validations for multiple fields at once in the form of a schema object. So let's just pass in our schema object. Let's just pass in our schema object right here. And also we forgot one thing. Let's first we check schema, update user schema. We forgot to check our ID. We forgot to check if our ID is a string or is an integer. But before that, let's just do this first. So after checking our user schema, I want to print the result. So console.log our validation result and that request. So let's just come over to contact client, update user. Okay, yeah, patch user. This one here, right? So in our body, we should patch. Let's patch user 1. Now, if we don't send anything, wait. says console. Oh, yeah, console indeed is not a function. So console does not. You see, it says user updated successfully, and it did not change anything because we didn't pass anything. But we are just going to, no, we are going to update our code to not do anything if nothing is passed. Right. So yeah, let's just pass our name. Let me just copy that on here and paste it here. Let's introduce some errors. And also for this code, I'm just going to delete it for now. Okay, you can see that our user was updated successfully, but that is not our issue. Down here you can see that we received an error, and our error says is a field error, the value is G, and you see that our username must be at least 3 characters, right? Our username must be at least 3 characters. And then for the age, you see that okay, it's not returning an error. Let's check in here and see. It's okay. Oh, nice. Okay, so you see in here we found what we were looking for. It should be greater than 0. Let's do this. Okay, so that is what we were looking for the other time, which is for creating a user. It's 0. We get an error. Wait. Okay, this is a get request. Oh my goodness, what is going on? New. Yeah, we get an error. You see that it must be an integer, but we are just going to change that. But for now, you get what I wanted to see. So in here, also you are just going to do that, right? So in here we do options, right? And then we pass our gt 0, and then we pass in our error message saying that it must be a number greater than 0. So yeah, that is it. Let's just come back to our patch. And also, yeah, I think that is it. Let's send. Oh my goodness, why isn't it giving us error here? Let's check. Okay, so after confusing myself today to the maximum point, I just found out that we were logging out the results and not sending it back. I was so confused as to why the user is being created even with all of our errors, and it just turns out that I'm just crazy. So we were just printing it out down here. You can see that our age is now, or the age check is now working, that it must be greater than 0. I was so confused, bro. Okay, so yeah, let's just use our result. So this is just like what we got the other time, right? So let's just come in here, and also we should check our ID and make sure our ID is a number. So let's come over here, ID, right? Let me put in comma there. It should just be like this on here. But our ID is not coming from the body, okay? Our ID is the ID we are type annotations. Bro, nobody is annotating anytime. That's going to be this, and then remove around this commas. So our ID is not optional, so we will not empty. It's true, right? It should be not empty, and then it should have an error message. User ID required. Because how can we patch a user without knowing that user's ID, right? So yeah, I think that is it. It shouldn't be empty, and also it should be an integer, and this is not the ID, must be number. Alright, and yeah, so we just yeah, we're going to do it this way. Remove that error message. ID must be a number. Okay, so back in here, if we see /user/ some string, you see that our ID, which is this or this ID we passed up here, don't forget our ID is this ID, the ID of the user we are trying to update. This one right here, not ID we got from the body. We are not going to pass any ID to the body, okay? We are not going to update the user's ID because the user's ID is permanent. Once a user is created, its ID cannot be changed. So the ID we are referring to is the ID that is inside of our URL. And you can see here that it says ID must be a number, and its location is in the params, is in our parameters up here. So now that we have all of this, let's just do what we did up there, right? So our ID, we are not going to use this ID, okay? We're not going to use that ID. We are going to use the ID from our matched data, but that is after we make sure that we don't have any errors, right? So you see, let me just save time. Oh no, this is saving my time, but where is post? Okay, here. So copy that. Where is our patch? I think this is this. We just delete that. Paste in here. You see that our const or val result is equals to validation or result on our request object. What is on? Okay. We were about to change our delete method, which isn't what you want to do. And also this brings me to the next thing, or this just remind me of what we are going to do next. As you can see in here, we have all of these request handlers and our routing function, everything in a single file. And as we create more and more routes, everything is just going to get cluttered, right? So in the next video, we are going to see how to arrange our code and the folder structure I use. So we have our validation result here, and we see that our validation result is not empty. We just send back all of our errors, right? So now we need our matched data. We are just going to remove everything up here, right? And also here, batch request, we are going to remove this batch request because now we already know that our ID must be an integer. So let me just remove all of that, and then I'm going to come down here, or you can just do it up here. See that our const body is equals to, let's just spread our match data here. So let's spread it here, right? So you see that our passed ID, this passed ID we deleted. I'll just do it again. Const passed ID is equals to, let's just pass int our body.id our body.id, and then yeah, that is it for the ID. And down here we are spreading our body here, right? So let's just spread our body. I think yeah, everything should work. Let's try it. So with errors, we send, yes, we get back our errors, right? So we are going to change our parameter ID to ID user number 1. Okay, so user number 1, and the name should now be James, age 90. Okay, age 90. And we get a 404 error saying that, wait, why are we getting a 404 error? Let's try getting our users. We have the user with the ID 1, right? So let's just console.log something. Let's just console.log our body. And let's try sending this batch request. Okay, so our match data is empty. Okay, that is the issue. Let's see what is going on. Okay, we did not pass a request in here, and that is that we send. You see, now we have updated our user successfully, and this is our body. We have our ID, our name, and everything, and our validation is going on quite well. So let me just move this console.log. So I think that is it for this part of the for this part. Yeah, and I hope you learned a thing or two. And before I end the recording, let me just go over what we did. So first of all, we just updated our logger to not print anything until our response is done sending. That is just to get that one out of the way. And so we did a quick introduction to Express Validator, and we saw how to use all of these functions, right? Our check schema for checking schemas to get validation result and to get all of the matched data. And we updated some of our route handlers here from using our manual validation to using Express Validator. We saw how to get all of our data that match our validations, and yeah, we also did the same thing for this patch request down here. So this file is already confusing me by now. So in the next video, we are just going to see how to modularize our code and split it into small or tiny modules that we can import, and then it's going to make up our application. And by the next video, you are just going to see a really complex structure in here. So we are just going to upgrade our file structure a little bit. And okay, with the validations, we saw that we can pass in an array of validations, or we can just create a schema using objects. So either way, it's just fine. It just depends on which one you want to use. You can see that using an array is quite easier and just straight to the point. And also using schema is yeah, it's not that bad, but just use whichever one you want. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully I was able to explain everything enough for you to understand. Yeah, I'm so dumb that I forgot to check my console the other time, and I was just confused looking for the errors. So if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or any thoughts on these videos, or if you want to see anything in the next part, please do leave a comment in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. My name is Omar, and this is YouPulse. Peace out.